Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall.
105.9 FM.
And AM 630.
WMAL.
637 on WMAL. This is a good one. One of my favorite ones. Stop.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle
Can't go
bell
wrong with
rock.
that. That's good stuff. Well, it is the Christmas season, but we got a lot of stuff going on that we got to talk about today. Coming up at 7:05, we'll talk to Matthew Boyle. Did you hear what happened in the House of Representatives last night? Oh, my gosh. You want to stay tuned for that if you haven't heard. Trevor Maddich will be here at 7:35 to talk about the Redskins game with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get back into politics and the running over the fiscal cliff. All kinds of problems here in Washington with Byron York from the Washington Examiner. It is 6:37. By the way, Larry, we got past 6:12, which was the moment in which we moved into the winter solstice, and the end of the world did not come.
Well, I don't know. That was about when you were reciting the Night Before Christmas poem, right?
Yeah. It was.
Well, I think maybe now this whole Mayan thing makes a lot of sense.
Oh, really? You think that was the penultimate event? Okay, gotcha.
Yes, the penultimate one. That's
penultimate one. I apparently used that word incorrectly, I'm told.
6:38 on WMAL. And, well, it's now been 1 week since the horrific massacre at Shady Hook School in Newtown, Connecticut. 1 week ago it happened, and in fact, at 9:30 this morning, at the approximate moment that the shootings took place, the country will observe a moment of silence. We here at WMAL will also observe that moment of silence at 9:30. Almost immediately, a political debate ensued during the reporting of this event, and as usual, the conversation turned almost immediately to what can be done about guns and infringing, in many people's views, upon the Second Amendment. Joining us now, Dan Bongino, a former Senate candidate for the state of Maryland and also a former Secret Service officer. Mr. Bongino, thanks for joining us this morning. In fact, a friend of the show, thanks for filling in for me, by the way, while I was on vacation.
I kept the seat warm for a couple hours for you there, buddy.
Yeah, a little too warm, by the way. I was feeling a little threatened. So
you guys got to work on that computer mouse, though. That thing's a little ancient over there in the corner. We got to get. I'm going to bring in a wireless one next.
Thank you. Tell management, will you?
And some new chairs.
So, where do you've been observing this debate that's been going on, and how the president has sort of steered the conversation to, I believe, where he wants it to go politically. What do you think about where we stand right now, and what really could or should be done to help protect our children?
Well, the conversations we're having now, Larry and Brian, have nothing to do with school security at all. And I mean, I can give you a real-life example. You know, when the president's security is at stake, and we were in the Secret Service, and we would travel to areas like Chicago, say the strictest gun laws in the country, in the president's hometown, and we'd bring them there. No one in the Secret Service said, hey, fellas, you know, no need to bring the weapons on this one. Chicago has very strict gun laws. We're okay. I mean,
great point. Thank you.
You know, when your security's at stake, nobody pays any attention to gun laws whatsoever. But when you need to make a political point and you want to initiate some kind of legislation, then that's what you do. You say, it's got to be the gun laws. And the problem is, guys, there is an opportunity cost to that. That talking about gun control right now, absent talking about real security fixes in schools that I proposed in that piece yesterday, is taking time away from real solutions.
All right. Well, let's talk, though, about what you can do at the schools. I mean, I think every school board and every parent is thinking about this now. So with your practice eye as a former Secret Service agent, this is something you had to think about. Security is something you thought about all the time. What would you recommend for school districts? What should they do? How should they think, and how should they approach this problem?
Well, if you're not talking right now about discrete armed security in schools, then you're not serious.
You really believe that's the answer?
Absolutely, and I can prove it to you. Listen, I have an 8-year-old, guys, a daughter. She goes to school in Severno Park, to a public school. I've thought about this ad nauseum. I wrote the piece yesterday as a father, not as a politician, Secret Service agent. I really did, because I want people to pay attention. We are conflating access control in schools with security. Here's what I mean. Whenever you go to your daughter or son's school, they say, well, we're really secure. We have a system to buzz people in. Really? You buzz everybody in. That's access control. That's not security. When you have a ticket for a Redskins game or a Ravens game, That's an access control mechanism. It's not security. You don't give your ticket to the guy, have him scan it and say, wow, that was very secure. That's not the way it works. Everybody gets in the school. You have to ask yourself, when an armed gunman bypasses your access control, because he's going to, it's already been proven over and over, what next? What confronts him? And if it's not equal and deadly force, then I would debate to you strongly that you are not serious about school security. It's the only, I mean, there are a number of other things I could propose as well, but that is by far the most salient and the one, if you're not addressing now, again, you're just not ready to have the conversation.
And I know that that's going to be controversial in some quarters. You understand that, right?
What is the controversy there, Brian?
Well,
I don't see how it's controversial.
I'm not saying it's controversial with me. I'm still trying to decide where I am on that particular issue. But there are going to be a lot of parents who say, I don't want guns of any kind in my school. You're going to hear that.
Of course. But let me ask you this. You're in a neighborhood, right? There's two banks next to each other. All else equal. It's a rough part of town, high crime area. Do you want to go in the bank that says this is a gun-free zone, or do you want to go in the bank that has, a 6'1" security guard armed at the front door? I mean, the answers are obvious everywhere else. Why are they so not obvious when it comes to securing our kids? And here's the great irony of this conversation, Brian. You know, you have a choice. You're an adult man. You can go on. If you don't like security at airports, don't fly. Take a bus. You know, you don't like the security in your bank. You feel he's staring at you when you go in there and scaring you. Go to a different bank. Your kids don't. You're sending them like sheep into a school where we're talking about things like, well, we don't want schools to look like war zones. Well, I got news for you guys. You don't make that call. The bad guy does. He picks what the war zone is, not you.
Yeah.
And what do we think? We're worried about optics and putting flower pots in the schools? This is nonsense. How many more of these things are we going to have?
Dan Bongino is our guest. Of course, he ran for Senate in Maryland and is a former Secret Service agent. And Mr. Bongino, what can we do, Dan, to move this conversation forward? I mean, because it seems as though gun control and limiting Second Amendment rights and some First Amendment rights as well with regard to the attacks on Hollywood, that seems to be the only thing that's being talked about. Is there anybody who's actually talking about securing the schools the way you would like them to?
Well, unfortunately, no. And that's why I've been doing the rounds in the media, to get folks like yourself who have a much bigger megaphone than I do to at least entertain the other side of the issue and divert the topic away from this nonsense about gun control. I'm not saying you have to agree with me, but at least people driving into work are hearing another approach going, hey, you know what, that kind of makes sense. You know, when the president goes there, no one talks about gun control.
All right, I got one quick question, Dan. I mean, this is one that's bothered me a lot. In Montgomery County, you have a lot of these portable classrooms. Right. What good does it do to secure the front of the office of the building when the gunman can walk around to the back and have access to trailers?
Yeah, that's a great point. They have the same issue in some of the private schools here as well. You know, and those trailers, remember, those aren't robust walls.
No, they're not.
No. That's a good topic, but there's no cookie cutter approach to each campus either.
That's
right.
You
know, in the Secret Service, we had to secure churches. They're not designed for security either. And I would suggest you have someone who has some experience in this take a look. There are ways to do it, Brian, or a lot of ways to do it that aren't really expensive either.
Yeah. Right. Dan Bongino, you know how our clock is tight here since you filled in, so we've got to get rolling. But thanks for joining us. Merry Christmas. And listen, when you're ready to announce your next big political move, not your next move into radio, your next political move, you're going to come here and announce it, right?
It is a done deal, fellas.
All right, great. Thank you, sir.